Hi, hello and welcome. It is Pip Todman here from queenpipcards.com. Welcome to your Waves of Inspiration fun fold card class. We're going to be doing 3 fun folds and 3 normal cards in this class. You should have received in the post your box, so if you have purchased this as part of my Stampin' Chat for April 2022, your box will be in the post and you will have received an email with this video on it. If you've purchased this separately from me, thank you. You have to provide your own supplies. So this is what we're going to be using today. I have got the stamp set and the dies, the Waves dies. I've also picked up one of my favourite new embossing folders, the Stripes and Splatters. I love this. So anything that creates sort of, it could be waves, it could be random splodges like this one, or anything that you think would look sort of sea-ish would be a good embossing folder, but it's not mandatory, you don't have to have that. And then I've grabbed a couple of labels, so whichever your favourite label dies are, you can use those. We do have some great labels in the actual die set itself, so if you prefer you can use these. They just don't layer on top of each other, so we've got, they kind of do, but they're only for small sentiments. So we've got these two that sort of layer over the top of each other, but you'd have to just use a small sentiment, and in some of them I've used bigger. We are going to use these on the cards, but there's just a couple where I've used additional ones. Okay, and for the first card we're going to start off straight in with these large wave dies. Now if you don't have the die set and you only have the stamp set, then I'll talk to you about how you can make your card without the dies. Okay, so let's do that. Let's stick those down there. Okay, so for the first card we're going to need the sentiment, strength. Your strength is an inspiration. Okay, and we're going to use Pacific Point on this card, but you will need Night of Navy and Coastal Cabana for some of the other cards. So those are the 3 inks that I use throughout this. Okay, and on one particular card, if you want to, you can add a bit of Bermuda Bay in there as well. It's up to you. So they're beautiful colours together, and they just look great. But if you don't have these, then pick a colour that's similar, a blue, and it should work with these. Or you could just go black. It's up, you know, that's another alternative. Right, so let's get cracking. So the first card we're going to make is this one. But as I say, if you don't have these wave dies, you might have something similar, or you might have something that you know, looks a bit like a wave or something that you want to put on the front. But if you don't, then I'm going to suggest a way of using the stamps as well. So we need our basic white card base. We're going to need our designer series paper. All the measurements are in the tutorials. I'm not putting measurements on my videos because I have people watching both in imperial and in metric. If you cut this paper, which has this one on the back, if you cut it so that the white water is sort of down the bottom, then you can stamp that big wave stamp directly onto your designer series paper, and that way you wouldn't need your, you don't necessarily have to use the dies if you don't have them. So you could just stamp a nice wave image on there for this card. Okay, so that's an alternative. The other thing that you need is some of the foils. Okay, so you're going to need a small piece, you're going to need a piece of white for the label, and then you're going to need the 2 beautiful turquoise and silver. And I have added adhesive sheets on the back of these because it's so much easier to add these when they've got adhesive sheets on the back. So we'll run these 2 through the mini cut and emboss. Just pop that on a block so I don't lose it. And you'll find that these fit beautifully through the mini. Just run them through individually like that. When you have your 2 beautiful pieces, then we're going to take our designer series paper and attach this one just a little bit above this one, so that it has the edges sort of co-combined. You could almost slide it down a little bit so you're hiding that straight edge. Apart from this piece here, you're hiding that behind the silver one. Once you know where you roughly want to put it, peel off your backing. If you can get to your backing. Where's my backing gone? There we go. So peel it off gently, not to tear your beautiful. There we go. Pieces come off there. So just a little bit sort of diagonally there, and let it fall in place. And then the same with this piece, but this time it's going all the way down to the very bottom of the card. So then this one forms that border. Oh, I've done it a little high, but it doesn't matter. Still looks great. There we go. Oh, I did come up high with that one. It's deceptive. Right, so now once you've got that in place, you can use your snips and just trim off that sticky edge there. And it just looks like waves coming through. This is the only bit that I'm not quite happy with because it looks a bit sharp, so I might just put a rhinestone on there. So, so now we're going to do this piece, which goes behind the banner, but we can attach this directly to our card now. Okay, that white just gives that a lovely edge to it. Okay, so next up we've cut a piece. We're actually going to use this for 2 cards, but it's easier to emboss when it's in a larger piece like this. So you need your embossing, your base plate and your embossing plate, and then that splattery embossing folder that I talked about. Pop that in. There we go, like so. Run that through the mini. Or you don't have to use the mini, you can use the large one if you got that, or you can use your other die cutting machines. Just remember it is a 3D embossing folder, so it's thicker than most. And then we have this gorgeous, beautiful, bobbly, sheeny. Oh, look, you can really see that. It's just got such a lovely texture to it. So next up, we're going to stamp our words. And as I say, we're going to do this in Pacific Point. Good thing is these papers have got Pacific, they've got Night and Navy, you know, they've got pretty much everything in it. You could emboss it onto dark card if you prefer, do it white, you know, just do so much with this set and with these papers. It's a shame the papers aren't staying. The stamps are staying. Oh, get that out. Stamps are staying, but the papers are not. So I've got loads of bits all over my desk. Right, so I'm just lining that up. Make sure that's straight. Hold that with a bit of washi. So that's how the die comes out, with these lovely little end pieces taken out, which is great for feeding ribbon or anything like that. But I thought, since the Sweet collection doesn't come with ribbon, but it does come with the beautiful foils. We're going to use the foils as if they're ribbon and just cut a piece. It's about 1.5 centimeters, which is about, I think you can probably fit 3/4 through. Oh, 3/4 might be tight. Okay, I'd go with half an inch or 1.5 centimeters. There we go. Chop that piece off, and then you can feed that straight through there as if it was ribbon, straight out the other side, and then you have that beautiful sparkly bits that goes along like that, but also embossed, so it's got more texture. Oh, excuse me. But it's also got that embossed piece, so it just adds something when the card is being looked at. Now, you probably don't want this to be loose like this, so I add a little bit of seal under here, like so, and then thread it through and get it where I want it to be before I stick it. So to do that, I do it from the back, work out roughly what's halfway and halfway between the two. Oops. And the same amount poking out at each end, and then stick it, and then that way you've got your piece stuck nicely on the front there. And then we just attach that with some dimensionals now that it's not going to go anywhere. And obviously you can put them over the arms, as it were, so it's attaching it even more there, and then just roll them through here like so. Got an extra one, and then attach that where you want to. Now if you want to, you could hide that, but I think that kind of loses the sentiment. I think it's nicer up here, but I still want to get most of this in, so I'm going to just raise this one up a smidge. Oops. There, I think. So depending on how you've cut your paper, depends on where you might want to put your sentiment. And then of course you will have the gorgeous waves rhinestones, which you can see I've used a lot. I love these. And for this one I'm going to be using the blue, darker blue, I think. But I might bring in some of the other green as well, because down here with the turquoisey colour you get a bit more of this going on. So I could put a few in here. I might just stick one of these just here, so it sort of hides that being a join like that. And then we can chuck in a couple of other. I mean, there's just so many colours that work with this. Put one of those down there, and then we'll put another one of these down here. Yeah, like that. So we have those sparkles going on from all directions now, not just from the rhinestones but also from the foiling. Okay, so that is card number 1. Okay, so card number 2 is this one, which looks normal but is actually a nice stand-up easel card. So there's a lot of pieces for this one. I will talk you through them. The first thing you're going to need is your card base cut this way. It has to be cut this way, so lengthways, chopped in half this way and folded in half that way. Then you cut, and I've used the same cardstock, so this is thick basic white. So you've got, so when you cut it in half, you then have enough to do this piece, which is exactly the same width as that, and just cut at half rather than scored. So it's basically this piece here from the other side of the sheet. Okay. Then you have another piece of basic white, and this one is this piece here that fits on the front. Okay, so just that, make sure that you have that piece that's your front piece. Then you have a smaller square Okay, so you can see just about, hopefully, that it is smaller than this. Okay, so the smaller one, that's for your inside. So put that to one side. We're just going to work on the front to start off with. And then you have various pieces of designer series paper, one of which you'll have cut into 3 equal strips. Okay, so it's this piece. It's from the same wave that we used in card number 1, that same paper, but just cut into that shape and then cut into 3. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing you need to do is create your easel base. Now for this, you take your card, you make sure it's got a good burnished edge. Okay. Then you take your trimmer and you put it back into the trimmer with the score on the right. Okay. Top of your trimmer here, and you're going to, and top of the trimmer being the piece being where you can hang it from. Okay, and the other end to where it says Stampin' Up. Okay, this is the top. If you hold your trimmer any other way, you're going to have to turn it this way or work it out in terms of how you hold your trimmer. But this allows you to get a really good solid push up to this edge. You bring it down to 7.5 in our language, and in Imperial 5.5, 2.5, 2 3/4. Yep, okay, and 2 3/4 inches, and then we're going to just score that along there. Okay, and that's all really that's all the fancy folding that needs to be done on this, but it does create a spectacular card. So then fold that piece back in towards its centre, okay, in towards the score line. So now you have a piece that looks like this. It's like a tent, okay, or a triangle from the top. And this is where you're going to glue this extra piece of thick white. So I put the glue on this bit to make sure that it's your edge. Don't attach it up here. So make sure that's your edge. Glue all over this. And then fold your card back down again and place this piece over the top so that it lines up straight. And that's why I use wet glue, because I've got that wiggle room for this. Make sure that's really firmly attached, and then when you lift this, the whole front comes off, so then you have that easel shape, called an easel because it looks like an artist's easel when they're colouring, drawing, painting, whatever. Okay, so that's that piece done. Now we're going to move on to the decoration. So you need your front piece here, and again I used the offcut of the thick basic white for this, and the reason I did that is I want to lift this whole piece up, and so it, you know, if it's thick white and a big area, it lifts better when it's up, if it's the thick. And then we will attach our strips, and these leave a really nice border all the way around, so don't put them too close to the edge. You need to have them sort of leaving the equal border top, bottom and side to the first one that you put down, and then making sure you've still got them in. Yep. Do the same on the other side. So your third piece. I always do the 2 outsides first, it's so much easier then to line up the middle one. So again, top, middle and sides should be the same thickness of border. Okay. And then this one sits nicely in the centre and should have the same border all round as well. Okay. Look at that. Perfectamundo. Okay, so that is your front piece decoration, like so. Then we need to attach a heron. So we're going to stamp the heron in Pacific Point onto a spare piece of white card that you have. This is the thinner white card. Okay, tap that down. Lovely. Look at that, isn't he so pretty? And then we cut him out. So then we pop him out and he comes out looking like that. Isn't he gorgeous? So cute. Now you can leave him blank if you want to, like that, just stamped as he comes. Or I actually used my Wink of Stella to just blend a little bit on the what are they? What are those things called? Not pilings? I think they're called pilings. Anyway, the rods that go into the water. I think they're called pilings or pylons, something like that. So I used Wink of Stella to just sort of paint, and there's so much Pacific Point that you just blend. It just blends naturally. Try and leave the middle sort of not quite so dark, since that's how it is on the stamp. Just gives a bit of texture. There we go. Right, so when he's done, we'll pop him up on dimensionals. Lost my dimensionals. Where did I put them? Oh, back in my drawer. So pop him up. That one's already had its thing taken off. You can just about fit another one in there. And you can, if you want to, fit just one in there. Or you can use the minis. I think I used minis on my other one so that his head was supported, but it doesn't matter. And then I popped him across there, like so. So his beak's just coming across like that. And then I used foam pads. You know, you can either just do one big piece if that's what you've got, or you can cut them into pieces like this. It just helps to give it a really good solid base. And it doesn't go soggy in the post. Although this is a thicker card, so you might want to send this anyway by giving it by hand or putting it in a box. Okay. So place him down here. Again, making sure you're equally distant top, bottom, sides. There we go. And I stamped the You're So Totally Awesome, cut it out again the same as I did the first one, and this again, this is cut from that same strip that we embossed in the first card. Now I'm just doing exactly the same to put it through on this card. So that's the front then done, apart from some rhinestones. So then we have to do the inside. Alright, so that's going to go there. Nice. Again, I popped this up in dimensionals so that it would have the same sort of pop-up feel as the rest of the card. You can go a bit overboard when it's a special fold, I think, and have some nice added touches of extra oomph. Okay. You're so totally awesome. That's not straight. You're so totally awesome, but you're slightly crooked. That's better. Okay. That's better. Right. So that's the front. Now we get to going on the inside. And for this, you need the bigger piece of designer series paper. I'll just pop that down. And this is quite dark, so you're going to want to add a piece of white to the inside so that you have somewhere to write. I mean, you could write on the back because it's a white card, so you could do that. But I always like it when somebody opens it that you actually have a message, you know, here. So we'll pop that on first, and then that will help determine where our stopper goes for our easel card. So I'll pop that on. Make sure it's got a bit of space all around it, like so. So now we know that our easel card stopper has to go here, and for this I've cut a smaller piece of foil, doesn't need to be as big as on the front, and then we're going to do the happy birthday onto the smaller die cut. Okay, so again, Pacific point all the way through, and then we'll die cut that out. So once you die cut it out, it looks like this, and we will then position it on top of the foil. Now again, I use seal to do this because glue and foil really don't mix, so it's better to do it with something that's dry. Means you have slightly less wiggle room, but it means that you're not going to get messy on your foil if you accidentally ooze glue over the side. Because even with your glue eraser it doesn't come off nicely, it leaves streaks and stuff. So there we go, pop that on, and then dimensional that up. It has to have dimensionals on the inside one. If you have got any pieces left of your foam, you can do that as well, but I don't. I'm just going to use this because I think I need my strips for something else. So here we go. Pop that on there. Then pop that down wherever you fancy it to go, and it sort of goes in a bit from either edge. I think I'm just a bit too far over, like so. Okay, make sure that's straight. Yep. And then when your recipient gets it, they can stand it up and it has something to hang on to here. So you need something for that edge to just catch under, and then that's how your easel stands. Sometimes you need to give instructions with easel cards. People think that you've forgotten to stick this bit down and they stick that bit down and think that's a bit weird. So please do send instructions that say, I am a stand-up card. Please tuck my front edge under the stopper inside, or something like that, and then people will know how to put it together. But you can see how different it looks just by using a different part of that same paper. I just love this paper for that very reason. Okay, so that's card number 2. Card number 3 brings out our crumb cake, which we also use. I've also used for these cards, and again the little Pacific point for the happy birthday. I'm going to show you how to do the wave because that's the most important piece, and then the rest of it will just assemble quite quickly. So the most important thing is that whatever paper you use, it covers the whole back. I've used this piece this time. It needs to cover the entire back of the card. Okay, so there's nothing showing because this wave is big. Okay, now I've put mine on my Stamparatus because it's just easier to work with on a Stamparatus, I find, because I can take the plate off and just work with it like that. So that's just a little tip when you're trying to work with a big image like this. Take it off the plate, or take the plate off and pop it down. So this is where all of the colours come into play, and I use daubers. If you don't have a dauber, you can use a blending brush, or you can just dab straight onto the stamp with the ink pad, or you can use right markers. So if you have the pens that go with them, so if you have these ones, not the blends but the right markers, you can also do this technique by just going straight to the stamp like this and doing various bits. Okay, so that also works, and you can just sort of tap it around a bit and do that. But if you are going to use daubers, then, which is what I did, then we need to start with a different colour. So I'm just gonna wipe that off. Okay, microfiber cloths are great for doing it when it's on a plate like this, or the chamois, but mine's very dry. So you start with your lightest colour and you ink it up all over. Now this fits perfectly onto an American size card, but it doesn't quite fit onto a UK size card, unless we cut it down to that smaller size, which is why I've done the smaller size piece. Okay, so then we grab some daubers, any kind of colours that look relevant. That'll do for that one. And then I need that's a bit green. That looks kind of Pacific pointy. Right, you might get dodgy fingers at this point. Then you go in with your next lightest colour. So this is Bermuda Bay. And we're daubing on top of that Coastal Cabana. So what this does is it actually overlays the ink. And I like Bermuda Bay, so I'm going a bit more wild with it. Although we want Coastal Cabana probably more at the top there, where it's more like foam. Then we can add a bit of Pacific Point. Just to give it some depth. And then finally come in with our Night of Navy. So this is a great technique to really add different colours to the waves, because waves are never the same, are they? They're never one colour. They're always a bit of a mix. Okay, so now we're going to pop that back onto the base. Take my foam out. Don't need my foam base because it's a foam stamp, cling stamp. Okay, so pop that in. Keep that out of the way somewhere safe. Then we need to align our card. So I know it came down here and we want it to be in the centre of that, so it needs to shift over a little bit this way. That's the good thing about this, you can manoeuvre it backwards and forwards until it's right. A bit more. She says, going backwards and forwards, try that. And then hold that in place with your magnet. Oh dear, a bit loud. Yeah, it's a bit, it'll be fine. So then you just stamp down. I should have marked it beforehand, but I didn't. But there you go. Stamp that really hard. Come back up. Oh, missed this bit. Go back in. Any bit you missed, you can go back in, which is the glory of this. There we go. Now it hasn't come quite to edge, but we can get over that by just daubing around the edge and making it look like it sort of continues on. So I'm going to take that Bermuda Bay and deepen those edges a little. You could use Coastal Cabana, or you can use blending brushes and it doesn't become quite so strong, but I quite like a good edge on this one, I think. If you wanted to, you can cut it down. It's entirely up to you, but I'm okay with that, having a daubed edge. And then you can always add in, you know, a bit of extra colour, a bit of darkness. Just makes it less obvious. Bit of Pacific Point. There we go. So it makes it a little less obvious that it's just stamped there. We might as well. Oh, we don't need to worry too much about this edge because we're going to put a heron on it. Okay, so that's that. And then when it comes against the card, you can see how strong it is. If you want to, you can cut it even smaller to just the wave, but then it is quite small on our cardstock. So I like it like that. That's fine. I'm going to put some glue here. Glue this straight onto the card. Onto the paper, like so. So, using crumb cake, we're going to take the little bird and just pop just 3 of them up here, like so. They're wheeling over the ocean. I've then stamped and cut a pelican, or whatever he is, in crumb cake, and just die cut that out. Okay, he's going to go flat to the edge, and then we'll put the sentiment over the top. Once these guys are on, you can attach your paper to your card base. He hides that little edge there. So if you wanted to, you could just chop out another pile on and put that sort of over here to cover that piece if you wanted, but I'm okay with that. So on this one I left it, I got it closer to the edge and left a gap. It was a little bit more, I positioned it better, shall I say. That's what I'm going to say. Positioned it better. But no matter how you do it, I think it still looks great. So we'll stick that on. That gives us our backing, and remember it goes edge to edge, so don't put the glue right up to the edge because it'll squish out the whole of the card then along the edge, and you don't want that. Make sure you've got your front piece, pop it on. If you stand it up, then you can see where you are side to side, and you can see where you are top as well, and the bottom should be straight. So there we go, that's that. Then obviously we need to put a little sentiment on. So for this I chose Happy Birthday again, and in Night of Navy this time. I'm going to go Night of Navy just to bring it down with this dark piece behind here. And I did cut this out by hand, so to get it really, really tight. But of course you could, if you wanted to, pop it back through the, if you've got the dies, you can pop it back and do a die piece. But if you haven't, I did cut this because it's straight, so it's not too bad to get close to. That way it doesn't matter whether you stamp it straight or not, because you're just going to cut it out. There we go. Pop that on with minis, because you won't get it on with the big ones. Pop this on. It can go all the way across. So it's going to stick over the top of the heron, pelican, whatever it is. We must find out what that is. It could be a cormorant. I think it might be a cormorant. It looks more like that. And then pop that on top there. So you don't use much of that. And then finish off with some more rhinestones. And again, because we've got that greeny in there now, we can really add in some of the nice, more green tones. So again, I would use this and I would go over the edge so it looks like it's attached and it's all part of the same thing. Put that one over there, and then maybe a lighter one at the top here. Like so, you can even put it right over the side. That looks quite nice. Sort of in the spray. So you get like a sparkly effect going on. Okay. So now you've sparkled up your waves. That is card number 3. Okay, so this next card is a fancy fold, and you will have cut your main cardstock like so, and you will have scored it here, here, and here. Okay, so you should have 4 scores in the card like so. You can burnish these if you wish at this point. Make sure that they're nicely going the right direction. And then what we will do is we will take this one and score it both ways. Okay, so this is the largest of the 2 smaller scores. Okay, so you've got this one on this side is small, this one on this side is big. And we're going to start like this. Okay, and I'm going to show you what the finished card looks like so that you understand what I mean. Because we've got so many layering pieces, you should have all your Night of Navy pieces, and you should have a white, and you should have your 3 pieces of designer series paper to one side. And then I just flip this over. This is just the back of this, so we had that yellow, which is a little bit different. Okay, so let me show you how these work. So this long piece here that we cut off before you did any scoring, that's going to be a belly band, and your finished card is going to look something like this. You take your belly band off, and then it folds out like this. So you can see that's how we have our cardstock now laid down in front of us. Okay, and it folds up like that, and then you pop your little belly band over the top. So let me show you how that works. So on this side of the card, you're going to want to attach your large blue piece, dark blue piece, and you're going to want to attach your dark blue piece on this side. Okay, and that's it. So I'll do this. I'm not going to attach the white yet because we're going to stamp on the white. So we'll just pop that in there, like so. Okay. And pop this one on here. Now I would, this is obviously where the white's going to go, so just remember that that's where the white goes. Okay, so it's going to lay it on top of your Night of Navy like so. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over. Okay, and then we're going to put the small piece again on this side. So now that's, because that's going to be the front. Okay, it's like a backward, I don't know what it's like, it's a triple fold card, that's what we're going to call it. And then this piece here, which is slightly smaller than the other piece, that goes on this middle panel here, so between the two blues, between the two Pacific Point pieces. So then when you turn it back over again, you now have your card going that way. So now you have your base, and then it's just up for decoration. So you'll have cut your pieces of your designer series paper and they will fit. So I've swapped this one around from the other one, and you don't have to do, you could do them all the same if you wanted to, but it's nice if they're different because they just show up a bit better. It's a bit more of a ooh. Okay, then we're going to turn it over and we're going to layer on this, and you decide which way up you want your colours to go. So I think I'm going to have the lighter at the top and then the darker at the bottom, like so, and then that's going to go over there. So again, do I want it that way or that way? No, I feel like it goes that way this time round. It's funny, isn't it? You get a feeling of how it should flow, even though it's an abstract design. Okay, so now when we turn it over, this is where it's open, and this is how it looks when it's closed. And then to do your belly band, you're going to wrap that by hand around your card, fold it over at the front. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of extra room. Okay, you don't want it so tight that it's strangling it, because you do have to be able to get it on and off. So I put it on and then I sort of let it breathe a bit. So put it on tight, then let it breathe a bit, and then that's where I would glue that. So I'm just going to glue that there. And I glue it on the card because that's the only way of really seeing whether it's fitting properly or not. Which I know people are like, oh, that's a bit weird, but it works. Okay, and we're going to cover that with our sentiment and our label. So now you should be able to slide it on and off. And you will need to, you know, just bend your card slightly to get it on and off, but that's normal, otherwise it would just pop off. So there we go. So that's now that's done. Now it's all done pretty much for this, except for the stamping. So I've got my big piece of white, basic white here. This is the thin basic white, and grabbing my, I'm going to grab this back again. and I'm not even really going to worry about cleaning it so much because it's still got all the stuff on from the previous card. I'm just going to go straight on with my Night of Navy because that'll pretty much cover everything. So I'll do that. Now you're not going to get it all the way over here because the card's not big enough. You do need to make sure that you get all those middle bits in. There we go. And then, if I have this right, it's going to come over here. Well, I can see where that line is now. So if I put my card sort of on a little bit over that, it's just going to come a little bit too down, is it? I don't know. There we go, let's try. Line that up, pop your wave on. See how that looks. Oh, see, that looks lovely. Look at that. So now we've got our beautiful, and still room to write, so that's good. That's our beautiful wave. So now we can pop that back inside. And then I did on the other one, I actually stamped on this side as well, put the heron on it. So you can do that if you wish. I mean, if you wanted to, you could add all the extra layers and everything, but it does add bulk then to your card, which makes it hard for it to close. So that's why I just went for that one. And then if you take a deeper, did I use Night of Navy? Can't remember now. Let's have it. No, I think I used Pacific Point. I used Pacific Point on the wave as well, but that's okay. It's good to be different. So we'll do Night of Navy for the heron this time. And then he can just come and sit just about here. There we go. Looking on, deciding what to do. Okay, and then for the label for the front, I've punched out using either the Label Me Lovely or the Label Me Fancy, I can't remember. And then it's one of those two because this is the other one. This is in that foil, in that deep blue foil. So that's going to go here. And then, unfortunately, my favourite tag, one of my favourite tags, the Tailored Tag Punch, is retiring. Shocker. So I've decided I'm going to use this one instead. Now, I did yellow on that one because we had no other yellow going on, but I think I might do... Night of Navy. Let's just keep it all of a theme. So we'll do Night of Navy for this. I love the You're Totally Awesome. It's just such a great, and it's something I would say, so that also works. I know awesome's a bit American, but I've kind of included it in my vocabulary these days. Right, so punch that out. Like so. There we go, you get this extra bit for no apparent reason. Now we have that, then we can layer that up with dimensionals. It's a little tighter on this label than it was on the other one, but that's okay. And we can cover this entirely with dimensionals because we know it's going to go cover that. And then you decide which way round you want it. So you can either put it this way with the straight edges there, or you can flip it, have the straight edges at the top, and have this in the curved pieces, which actually do match this. But I quite like it this way round, so I'm going to do it this way round just to be different. You know. There we go. That looks good. Then again, you can put dimensionals on the back, or you can glue it if you want it. I've put dimensionals on this one. It's up to you. But I would put dimensionals on here. Work out how long it is. It's going to go that way. So you can sort of work out where you're going to need your dimensionals by doing that. Sticking that in the middle. Might do two, just to be, you know, secure. And then that covers nicely that entire join right there. And fits lovely with that. Now if you have an overhang piece, see I've got a little tiny bit of an overhang piece. You can just trim that off. Just trim that off this way. Here we go. So it's until it's behind there. It's just because when you fold card it always wants to skew. And that is card number 4. Wow, we're racing through them today. That's good. So then when you give that to somebody, they're like, oh, that's a nice card. And I'd re-burnish all the folds, but the more you burnish it and open it and close it again, the better it becomes in terms of staying flatter. There we go. So that's my original with the 2 yellow panels, and then this one had the blues in the middle. This one's got the yellow in the middle. That's not got any foil on it. This has got foil on it. And then I did another version in white. So I did this one in white, so that's also an option. And then when you open that up, I just did the wave. So that's another option. I just think they're great. And these are going to go out to some special people this month. Aren't they gorgeous? Just fab. Right, so that's that card. So for our next card I changed it up completely and went to Very Vanilla, which is something I very rarely use these days. I don't know why, but this just struck me as it would work nicely with Very Vanilla. So you've got your Very Vanilla pieces, and again this uses thick because it's going to be popped up on the card front. So you've got your base and then the other piece is used for that. And then I just decided to use this for the 2 pieces. So you've got some soft suede, which we're going to use for the birds, and then you've got the rest of this sheet. You've got the rest of this piece that you're going to use for the sentiment and the pelican, heron, cormorant, whatever. But the biggest thing you've got here is you've cut this piece out. This is from the really big wavy one, and on the back it's like this. And turn it so that you've got it to a point where you think, yeah, that looks kind of like waves going. Kind of looks like waves going. And then you're going to rip it. And everyone's like, ah! Just tear it across the middle, and then but also tear it down a bit, so you've got a bit of just a nice bit going on. It might be a bit long, might have to tear that off a bit more. And then on the other side you're going to use this at the back. So again, if you need to tear it a piece, tear it down however you want it to be. So you end up with a few bits of, so that might be nice as a nice backing for that. And then this piece, I kind of like the tear, but it's just a bit long, so you might want to just chop that off. So just do it to the point where you're happy with it. And I know it's that's hard to, that's like, but you're asking me to rip my cardstock. Yes, I am. It takes a little bit of bravery to do. That's going to work out just fine. I think even lower possibly. So this is a bit more of a whenever you're happy kind of thing. Okay, so don't just assume the first piece you put on is okay. But when you put those two together, see, that looks like waves crashing. Then we're going to put the bird through there as well. Right, those pieces you can get rid of. You have my permission. They need to go in the recycling. And then the rest of it is stamping and die cutting. That's the hardest part, is that cutting, is tearing that first piece. So we're going to take the larger piece and we're going to stick that to the back of your Very Vanilla front card topper, like so. Okay, so that's now on and nicely to the edges. We're not going to stick the other one on yet. We're going to stamp and do a bit of die cutting. So this time I've stamped in soft suede. You could still go in in crumb cake, but I thought I needed the soft suede to just bring it in with the birds that I'm die cutting out, and they didn't look right the other way. So You're So Totally Awesome. I need a lot of awesome people in my life, which good thing I've got a lot of awesome people in my life. And then we'll do this one here, including you guys who have paid to come and do this class with me. You are totally awesome. Alright, so I'll cut this down here so it's small enough for the mini, and then I will die cut those out and I'll be back in a mo. Okay, so now I have die cut my pieces. So I've got my heron, I've got my sentiment, and I've got these little tiny birds, which I do recommend you use adhesive sheets, but I haven't for this particular one. So the first thing I would do is put your heron in place, and he needs to sort of poke out the top of this C, wave, whatever, so that when the other one comes in, it's going to hide the bottom of him, but he's not going to stand up so tall that he hits into that sentiment at the top there. Then we're going to layer that over the top there, see, so it just covers up that base. It doesn't look like he's standing in the middle of nowhere. So we'll do this, and then we'll just cover that bottom piece again like that. See, now look, he looks good there. So now it's the waves crashing against the shore where he's sitting on his plinth, pylon, whatever it is. Next up, we're going to put this on, but we're going to wrap it with ribbon. And this one I used the ribbon from, what was this from? Forever Fern or something like that. But I have no more of it. So I've swapped you out for some soft succulent because it looks really nice with it. So the first thing you're going to do is wrap your ribbon through your sentiment like this. And leave yourself a good amount to tie a bow on that side, and have enough to go round the back and come back in to tie a bow on this side. Okay, so about there. Attach that with a bit of seal so it's not moving around at the back for you. Okay. There we go. Like so. Next, dimensional that to your card. So, oops, I'm going to go like this. Make sure it's straight. There we go. So it's like all over. And I stick that down. And you've got 1/2 metre of this, so you've got plenty. So pop it down where you want it to be. Oops, is that straight? Is that straight? Yeah, I think so. And then this wraps around the back of your card, like so. Comes to the front, and then you tie a bow. Sort of tucked in here to this, where this joins. Alright. You should have plenty for that. Don't skimp and try and cut a bit off before you've wrapped it round, because you'd be surprised how much you need for that bow. So it's just perfect, this amount that you've got. You can make it smaller if you want to, or you can make it bigger. I think it actually, in the soft succulent, I think it actually looks better slightly larger, but not too much. There we go. And then chop your ends off nicely. Okay. And then the final piece is to just attach your birds. So again, I should have put adhesive sheets on the back, and I forgot, because I haven't put my adhesive sheet pieces in with my dies. That's what I need to do. And then pop your birds in, hovering as they do. I think I'd just do 3, because I think 3 looks better than 4. Then you just got a spare one for whenever you want. but they are different shapes, so just make sure that you have 2 of one and 1 of the other. That makes it look very nice. There we go. There we are. So finally, probably should have put that on a different level, but that's okay. Finally, you're going to attach this to your card base, but with foam, so that it, or lots of dimensionals, so that it stands proud. No soggy middles here. Okay. Down there. I need a little bit more. That helps to also secure that ribbon in place. I think I've run out of foam. That's not good. Oh, we'll stick a dimensional in it. There we go. If in doubt, just add some dimensionals. They're not quite the same thickness, but they'll stop it going too soggy. There we go. Right, so pop your foam off. Must go and get another sheet out. But see, you'd need an awful lot of dimensionals to do this, whereas with a sheet it's so much easier. Make sure you've got your front. And then pop that down. Sort of straight. Hopefully straight. Looks straight. Yeah. There we go. And then finish that off with a few rhinestones. I didn't put any rhinestones on the other card actually. I mean, I think you could definitely put some rhinestones all around that, so go for it. But this one, I'm adding these sort of more greeny ones down here into the waves. They show up nicely. Okay. So that is card number 5, would you believe? We're already at card number 5. So that's the original. Looks great. I love the feel of that going behind the sea. Looks really good. Okay, so finally we have another fancy fold. This one is Coastal Cabana, and you'll have got your cardstock in one sheet, and I need you to chop it in half vertically, so straight down the middle. So this is your short edge, this is your long edge. So you can score them at 14.9 and then chop it in half, and then you've got 2 that are exactly the same. If you're doing it in metric and if you're doing it in imperial, you would score that at 5.5 for both, and then cut it at 4 1/4. Okay, so fold both of these over, and this time you're looking for the smaller side on this side and the smaller side on this side, so that when they go together and don't overlap, they form a bigger side. Okay, so that's what you're going to attach, but before you attach that, now you know which side you're putting where, now is the time to do your cutting. Okay, so you take each piece, so we know this is this side, and this piece we're going to cut from this corner to this corner. Okay, so turn it over, cut from this corner to this corner. So line it up in your trimmer. Move that across a bit so you can see a bit better. Line it up with this tip here, this bit, this crease there. Bring your blade to the centre, and that way you don't squish either of your corners. Okay, so that's that piece. Then this piece needs to be the opposite of that. Okay, so this piece we need to go from, I want to make that the triangle, so we have to go from the bottom corner up to the top. Okay, so on this piece, again, turn it, I'm going to go from this bottom corner up to that top. So this time I'm doing it the other way around, just so that I make sure I don't get it wrong. I'm going to go from that bottom corner, if you can see both corners now. So from this bottom piece here to this top piece up here. Again, blade in the middle. Because what you want is the piece you're leaving behind, not the piece you're cutting out. So they can go off and be used for scrap. And then when you stick those two together, that creates that lovely fancy fold for you. Then all you have to do is cut your paper to match. So in your pack, you have some more basic white. You're going to cut two of them identically. One's going to go in the middle of the card and the other one is going to be chopped in half. You need to make sure it's chopped in half the right way. So again, it's going to go from that corner to that corner. So from that corner to that corner. Blade in the middle, like so. Keep those. And then you'll have cut your paper into a layering mat. So this one, and again, you want to make sure you're cutting it in the same direction. So this corner to this corner. There we go. Make sure that's lined up. There we go. And then the rest is just gluing and stamping and a bit of die cutting. So first off, let's glue this down. So I glue just one of them and then slide that in to the other, making sure it doesn't go, you don't want it to go over the crease, otherwise it won't bend, but you do want it to be straight and level to both edges. Which this one is not. It is on that side, it's kind of close. There we go. There we go, that's better. So that then forms your card. Okay. Then we glue, you can decorate the inside if you want to, or you can leave it blank. I wouldn't put 2 layers inside, purely because it's a little bit tight when you're folding it over again. It's about bulk, you know, you don't want too much bulk. Then we glue our triangles to our base triangles, and these should have the same tiny little gap all the way around that they do when you have a topper on a card. Okay. So you end up with, it's a little less because normally this would go right to the centre. So you are just a tiny bit narrower in your entire piece, but it makes it very easy for measurements when you're trying to decide like how to do your layering if you just go down in the same mats and layers. There we go. So then these will then be glued onto here. So that's the next job. Glue these onto the front. Again, leaving that gap. Make sure you don't glue over your other triangle. You need to maintain it within that area. And this one, I need to burnish them. They shouldn't. They won't be popping up like this normally. It's only because I haven't burnished them properly. So, and that will go down here, like so. There we are. Come back this way a bit. Make sure that lines up. Oh, no, that's way off. That's better. There we go. And this is where if you haven't quite got your triangles perfect, it's going to show, but it's negligible. Nobody's going to notice it because you've all got that middle line going through anyway. And then we're going to cover that with our labels. So what I've done here is I've cut a Night of Navy, sadly from the retiring Hippo dies. Hippo and Friends dies. I don't know what I'm going to do. I use those dies all the time, but thankfully there is something new coming out. So do not panic. We will have some good layering dies. Okay, so that's that. Make sure that this, when you stick this down, it has to only stick on one of your triangles, not the other. So I'm going to go from just over that corner to just over that corner. So less is better than more, just to make sure that you haven't overdone it and got glue on the other side, which you don't want, but you do want it sort of central on your card, like so. Just check. Nope, no glue coming out. That's good. And then I have, on this one I took, on my original, I haven't shown you my original yet. On my original I used another Hippo and Friends die, and then inside I just stamped the little heron. This time I thought, well, why don't we use the dies that we've got? And this is what's left, and it's just a little bit too big to feed through, but you can definitely just attach it over the top. So I thought we'd do that, because this is too nice to not use. Oh, come on. There we go. Seal on your little strip, because it's foil, remember, so we don't do glue. Pop that on there and on there. Is that straight? Yep. Make sure there's no glue on this side of it, so don't go too close to the edge. And then we'll dimensional these up. So we'll pop this up. And I just stamped this in Coastal Cabana, so it's sort of matched with the card. Oh, I've got all my... Yeah, get rid of those. They're sticking to my fingers for some reason. Staticky. So pop that onto there, like so, and then finish with some rhinestones, because you can't have enough sparkle. And we can definitely use these ones, I think. So we'll pop some of these on. And then scatter some more over the back here. I think this might be the first time, apart from my, well, not the first time I've ever finished a pack, because I do finish packs quite a lot actually, but just on like these cards. Oh dear, because they're just such lovely colours. Pop one of those, go a bit darker. I mean, you can really do lots of different things. I need a bigger one. There we go. So there we go. That is card number 6. Amazing. So this one or this one, depending on how you fancy. And then when it opens, obviously you can stamp the inside if you want to. And when it opens, it will stand on the mantelpiece, like so. So it will actually attach to itself or stand free on the mantelpiece like that. It looks amazing when it's standing. So that's card number 6. Then we've got card number 5, card number 4 in its 3 versions that I showed you. What else we got? Card number 3, card number 2, whoops, 2, and then card number 1 with the gorgeous dies. So many designs for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this class. If so, please leave me a review. I'll send you a link. You can leave me a review up on my Google or on my Facebook. It's up to you. But it's nice for other people to hear how you've found my tutorials and whether they've worked well for you and whether you enjoyed doing them. If you found my instructions clear, my videos clear, then it's lovely if you could just leave me a review to say that you enjoyed today's tutorial. So there you go, I'm going to leave you with that, and happy stamping. I'd love to see your makes. Please pop them in Crafty Corner, and I will see you again next time on Stampin' Chat. Thanks, bye.